I just wanted to check whether she'd remembered to call me back. Ashley and I had this small ritual of texting home safe whenever one of us got in late, and it was 11:47 p.m., well past her usual shift end at the coffee shop. My phone was silent, while hers lay face down on the coffee table, still unlocked from when she'd queued a playlist minutes earlier. One quick glance felt harmless. Maybe she'd messaged and it just hadn't pushed to my notifications. Instead, I opened her chat list and saw a thread pinned above mine. Ethan. The newest bubble from her side said, "Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow after lunch. Tyler's clueless." In an instant, my pulse jackhammered. The room's gentle white noise hum turned into static. Scroll after scroll unfurled screenshots of hotel confirmations, inside jokes built on fragments of my own schedule, selfies snapped from the patio outside while I'd been across the country for a sales conference. Monday night takeout, I thought we shared as comfort food, was described here as her alibi feast. My reflection in the darkened TV showed my jaw slack, eyelids twitching as though I were fighting off sleep paralysis and failing. The more I read, the more ordinary details rewrote themselves. The vanilla bean candle now smelled like a cover-up, the throw blanket around her shoulders like borrowed, sentimental camouflage. A laugh track on the sitcom cued precisely when my stomach lurched. Its canned cheer felt like the universe's cruel joke. With each breath, I half expected the door to swing open so a director could apologize for the mix-up and let me reshoot the scene where my girlfriend wasn't secretly dating someone else. But no door opened, no apology arrived, only the slow rise of dread that tonight would end nothing like any night before it. I set her phone down exactly where it had been. The screen dimmed, leaving me in the kind of hush you get inside a church after everyone's whispered amen. And in that hush, I realized the faith I'd placed in us was already crumbling like old plaster around stained glass edges. I stood, pacing the narrow living room strip between couch and kitchen island, replaying every flicker of the last 6 months under a merciless new light. The Thursday she'd missed the subway and crashed at a coworker's place. The weekend, I surprised her with concert tickets, and she looked relieved instead of excited because Ethan had apparently booked a cabin that very weekend. So many almost red flags I'd painted over with trust now flapped in my peripheral vision like warning tape. I wanted to wake her up. She'd fallen asleep in our bedroom an hour earlier, earbuds in, but stumbling in at midnight, waving screenshots felt like playing prosecutor without preparing the case. My hands shook too hard to gather evidence cleanly anyway, so I started forwarding the chat to my own email. Every image, every voice note, until Gmail warned I was exceeding attachment limits. I listened to one short memo where her voice dropped into a soft register she usually saved for saying I love you to me. Hearing it meant for someone else felt like biting down on tinfoil. I deleted it, then undeleted it, unsure which hurt more. At 12:23 a.m., I crept into the bedroom. She lay curled on her side, mascara faintly smudged, breathing slow and even. I whispered her name once, not to wake her, just to test if I could speak around the rock lodged in my throat. Nothing. Back in the hallway mirror, I barely recognized the guy staring back. Eyes rimmed red, jaw clenched in a way that made my temples throb. Part of me wanted to grab a bag, vanish into the night, leave a note that said simply "saw the texts." Another part needed answers, needed her to tell me this was a prank, a misunderstanding, anything but what it looked like. Those parts wrestled until exhaustion pinned them both. I curled up on the couch, phone held against my chest more like a defibrillator than a device, and counted the creaks in the ceiling until dawn seeped through the blinds like a truth serum. Morning broke hazy, the kind of gray that makes every surface look smudged. Ashley padded out in one of my old college tees, hair in a messy top knot, mug already half full of coffee. She greeted me with a sleepy smile that punched harder than any accusation could have. For a split second, I almost smiled back out of habit. Instead, I murmured, "We need to talk." Her brow furrowed. I'd practiced the words all night, but the rehearsed monologue fled as soon as I met her eyes, so I chose blunt honesty. "I saw your messages with Ethan." The mug halted midair. She set it down too quickly, coffee sloshing over the rim. Silence inflated like a car airbag between us, sudden, suffocating, smelling faintly of burnt roast. She searched my face, maybe for clues about how much I'd read. Tears welled instantly. I'd seen her cry at indie movies and dog rescue reels, but this was different. Panicked, cornered. "Tyler, I can explain," she whispered, voice cracking on the last syllable. I wanted to spit back 1,000 searing lines, but everything tasted like copper, so I just nodded once, stiffly. She rambled about feeling lonely when my travel picked up, about how Ethan listened, and how she never meant for it to become physical, though the evidence contradicted that in neon letters. Her sentences tangled, contradicted, circled back. Each apology felt less like remorse and more like someone flipping through possible exit strategies in real time. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. My ribs hurt from holding in whatever sound threatened to escape, a roar, a sob, maybe both. "Were you ever going to tell me?" I asked. She inhaled as if the answer might be hiding in the next breath, then exhaled nothing. The silence was answer enough. I spent the next hours in strange limbo. Making toast I didn't eat, scrolling feeds I didn't read, fielding work calls where my voice sounded distant even to me. Ashley holed up in the bedroom, door ajar, occasionally emerging to offer water, tissues, explanations in half-finished spirals. Noon crept toward afternoon. Finally, I told her we needed real space if the conversation was ever going to mean anything. I booked a hotel near the Riverwalk and packed a small duffel, leaving most of my clothes in our shared dresser because I couldn't decide what counted as permanent yet. She watched from the entryway, tears streaking fresh constants down her cheeks, asking if I'd be back for dinner. The question landed like sleet. I said I didn't know. Stepping into the hallway felt like crossing an invisible border. Behind me, echoing sobs and lavender-scented guilt. Ahead of me, an elevator hum and the sterile promise of anonymity. I pressed the button, stomach swirling, and wondered whether this was truly day one of life without her, or just an intermission before heartbreak's encore. The hotel smelled like industrial citrus, and the sheets were tucked with military precision, both welcome distractions from the echo chamber in my head. I spent the afternoon pacing the river trail, phone buzzing intermittently with Ashley's texts that oscillated between "I'm so sorry" and "Please talk to me and I love you so much." I answered none. Instead, I called my older sister, Megan, who'd seen enough of life to know when to listen and when to give direction. She said, "Don't decide anything tonight. Let shock settle first." So I watched the sun sink behind old brick warehouses until the water caught fire in shades of gold and red, colors that felt ironic given how scorched my trust was. Back in the room, I played the voice memo from Ashley again, then one from Ethan bragging about stealing lunches in conference rooms. The casual arrogance in his tone finally tipped something inside me, from grief to anger. I opened my laptop and drafted a message to him. Not a threat, not profanity, just 3 lines. "I know everything. Stay away from her until I figure out what's left to save, if anything." I hovered over send, then closed the lid. He didn't deserve my energy yet. I needed to decide whether there was anything to salvage first. Sleep came in fragments, 30-minute episodes punctuated by dreams where hotel corridors looped back into my apartment. Everywhere I turned, a reflection of myself holding Ashley's phone like incriminating evidence. At 4:37 a.m., I woke to 5 missed calls from her and a single text. I told him it's over. "I'll do anything to fix us. Please come home." The words stirred a flutter of something, hope, maybe, but also a sharper question. Was I willing to rebuild a house on ground that had already swallowed the first foundation whole? I thought of the candle scent, the laugh track, every tiny cue now tainted. Then I pictured the version of me 6 months from now, eyes clear, heart lighter, whether alone or with someone new who hadn't lied. That image glowed brighter than the prospect of endless suspicion checks and location-sharing compromises. As dawn broke over the city skyline, soft pastel light filtering through taut hotel curtains, I exhaled the longest breath of my life and decided that loving her didn't have to mean staying. I typed a reply that felt like both a release and a eulogy. "Take care of yourself, Ashley. I need to let go to heal." When I pressed send, the weight in my chest didn't vanish, but it shifted. Less like an anchor dragging me under, more like a stone I could finally set down and walk away from. The first workday after I sent that text felt like crossing a minefield nobody else could see. I walked into the office, nodded to Jordan from IT, forced a quick smile at my manager, then sat at my cubicle pretending the marketing report mattered more than the implosion of my life. Every ringtone made me flinch. Around noon, Megan called to check in. Hearing her voice steadied me enough to get through the afternoon without rereading Ashley's last 10 apologies. I clocked out early, drove to my parents' place in the suburbs, and told them everything on the back patio where I'd once practiced free throws against the garage wall. Dad listened with that quiet intensity he usually reserves for playoff finals, then said one line that stuck. "Trust is like paper, you can smooth it, but the crease never really disappears." Mom hugged me so hard my shoulders cracked, handed me leftovers, and insisted I stay the night. I did, falling asleep in my childhood room under a poster of the 2016 Cubs, half believing maybe 16-year-old Tyler could lend me some teenage resilience. Morning sunlight cut through the blinds and landed on a stack of mail my mom had left near the door. On top was an invitation to my college buddy Sean's 4th of July lake house get-together, a week and a half away. Last year, Ashley and I had roasted marshmallows on that same dock. The idea of returning solo felt raw, but a louder voice said I needed to reclaim spaces she'd stained. I RSVP'd yes, tossed the invite back on the stack, and hit the gym for the first time in months. Pounding out 3 ugly miles on the treadmill didn't erase betrayal, but the sweat felt like proof I could still move forward under my own power. The next days blurred into a new routine. Wake at my parents', commute past billboards I'd never noticed before, ignore Ashley's texts that dwindled from paragraphs to single words. Please, talk, sorry. Wednesday, she sent a photo of the apartment key on our console table captioned, "I'll stay at my sister's until you decide." Relief mingled with grief. I drove over that evening to gather more clothes. Walking into the empty living room I'd once furnished with her felt like inhaling ghost air, everything familiar, everything wrong. I packed quickly, but before leaving I lit the vanilla bean candle that had always masked her latte shift scent, watched the flame for a full minute, then blew it out. A small ritual goodbye. My own closing credits. Friday night, Megan dragged me to a dive bar for trivia. Our team, the Trust Falls, finished third thanks to my random knowledge of 90s sitcom theme songs. It was the first time in a week my laugh sounded genuine even to me. Across the table, a brunette with silver hoop earrings, Jenna, congratulated me on nailing the Friends bonus question, then asked if I wanted another cider. I hesitated, not ready for flirtation, but a quiet internal nudge said accepting a friendly drink wasn't betrayal to anyone, least of all myself. We talked indie podcasts, her rescue dog named Pixel, the best tacos on the east side. When last call hit, we exchanged numbers with zero expectations. I drove home humming the trivia playlist Megan had cued, noticing how the melody sat lighter in my chest than any sound had all week. The lake house weekend arrived beneath a sky so blue it looked photoshopped. As we unloaded coolers, Sean's fiancée Brooke pulled me aside and said, "Heard about Ashley. Glad you still came." Her simple acknowledgement loosened some tension I hadn't realized I was carrying. We spent the afternoon wakeboarding, cannonballing off the dock, shouting over portable speakers. That night, a bonfire crackled while fireworks from a neighboring cove bloomed overhead. Laughter popped around me like sparks, and for the first time the future didn't feel like a threat. I checked my phone only once to silence an unknown number. Later I'd find out it was Ethan, who'd apparently decided an apology text would fix optics. Blocking him felt satisfying in a way words never could. On Sunday afternoon, sunburned and sleepy, I sat at the water's edge sipping lime seltzer while dragonflies skimmed the surface. Sean parked himself beside me, skipped a stone, and asked if I'd thought about therapy. I admitted I'd bookmarked 3 counselors but never clicked call. He nudged me. "Dude, a broken bone needs a cast, a busted heart's no different." The metaphor stuck. Monday morning I scheduled a session for the following week. Therapy turned out less like TV's leather couch cliché and more like structured honesty sparring. Dr. Patel guided me through the timeline, the guilt whiplash, the moments I doubted my own worth because someone else had devalued it. She had me write a letter to Ashley I'd never send, spilling every unfiltered word onto paper. Reading it aloud in session felt like purging venom, Afterward, I ripped the pages and watched the strips fall into her recycling bin. Symbolic, but effective. On session 3, we mapped boundaries for any future relationship, including how trust is rebuilt through transparent actions, not tearful promises. Mid-August brought the apartment lease renewal. The idea of renewing solo, where echoes of us lingered, felt suffocating, so I found a loft closer to work with exposed brick walls and ridiculous natural light. Moving day helpers included Megan, Sean, and even Jenna, who showed up with iced coffees and Pixel wagging her tail. We'd texted casually since trivia, gradual and pressure-free. That afternoon, she balanced a box labeled Kitchen Fragile on her hip and joked that my mug collection revealed a man of great caffeine needs. Her playful grin caught me off guard in the best way. We spent breaks talking favorite childhood books and how she once tried to skateboard and still has a scar shaped like New Jersey. When the last box was stacked, she invited me to a food truck festival the following weekend. I said yes, surprising myself with how natural it felt. Late September marked 3 months since the discovery. Ashley and I met one last time at a downtown café to exchange remaining belongings, her Polaroid camera, my high school hoodie she'd practically lived in. She looked tired but calmer. We talked logistical details, nothing emotional, until she whispered, "Are you happy?" I paused, searching for a truthful answer, then said, "I'm healing." She nodded, eyes watering but no breakdown. We wished each other well. Walking away, I realized the finality didn't sting. It settled like a book gently closing after the final page. Life slid into a new rhythm. Work, therapy Thursdays, game nights, spontaneous road trips with friends. Jenna and I stayed in orbit, concert here, hiking trail there, until one chilly November evening, we found ourselves sharing a graffitied rooftop view of the city skyline. She traced constellations with her finger while explaining how her dad taught her the myths behind each one. A gust of wind sent her hair across her face. I brushed it back without thinking, the gesture instinctive yet momentous. She met my eyes, and in that heartbeat I understood trust wasn't a single sheet of paper after all. It was a mosaic. Some pieces crack, some fall away, but new colors can fit the gaps if you're patient enough to place them. On New Year's Eve, surrounded by confetti cannons and off-key countdowns, Jenna leaned in as the clock hit midnight. Fireworks blossomed over the river, echoing the ones I'd watched alone months earlier. But this time my pulse raced from joy, not betrayal. I thought about everything between those two pyrotechnic bursts. The sleepless night on the hotel couch, therapy tears, blocked numbers, sunburned shoulders, dragonflies, rooftop constellations. None of it erased the hurt, yet all of it built the scaffolding that let me stand here now, kissing someone who hadn't broken my heart. I'd once feared that Ashley's choice had shattered me beyond repair. Instead, it cracked me open, letting better light in. Paper may crease, yes, but life is written over countless pages, and every turn offers blank space. I'm still writing, smudges, edits, unexpected plot twists, but the pen is firmly back in my own hand. And that, more than any ending, is the story worth telling.